Welcome back to SuperString. Today I will show you a dramatization film from 2011, named The Help. Spoilers ahead. Keep an eye out and fare thee well. In Mississippi in 1963, Aibileen Clark is recounting her story to an essayist. She experienced childhood with a manner, definitely realizing she'd turn into a house cleaner since her mom and grandma were servants as well. She's taken care of 17 white children in her day-to-day existence, while her own youngster was taken care of by another person, and these days she's working for the Liefeld family. The spouse, Socialite Elizabeth, doesn't give a lot of consideration to her girl May, so Aibileen does the majority of the raising for 95 pennies 60 minutes. This entire book thought begins when Skeeter Phelan gets back subsequent to moving on from school. She attempted to go after a position at a significant distributing house in New York, however she was informed she expected to acquire experience first. So presently she goes after a job at the neighborhood paper and is given a task responding to cleaning inquiries in the housewife section for $8 per week. In the interim, Aibileen educates us concerning her dearest companion Minnie Jackson, who functions as a housekeeper for the Holbrooks. The spouse Hilly leads the ladies' socialite bunch and is leader of the city's junior league. As of late, she's additionally brought her mom Mrs. Walters to live with her after she ended up being wiped out. This implied terminating her own house cleaner to account for Minnie in light of the fact that she is the best cook around and Hilly loves her pies. Whenever Aibileen lost her child quite a while back, Minnie helped her go through it. Today Hilly is the one facilitating the scaffold club, so Minnie and Aibileen get to blabber together in the kitchen while working. Minnie enlightens Aibileen concerning Hilly's most recent offense. She's begun putting pencil blemishes on the tissue to ensure Minnie isn't utilizing their restroom, therefore Minnie has begun to convey paper of her own. Skeeter has likewise arrived at this little assembling, and her lifelong companions give her a warm gladly received, yet the state of mind becomes abnormal when Skeeter makes reference to she has some work. She's forever been viewed as somewhat of a fruitcake for not getting hitched. Things get off kilter again when Skeeter requests that Elizabeth authorization converse with Aibileen later so she can help her response the cleaning questions. This causes her to admit she can't do that with her own housekeeper since she quit, which is viewed as somewhat of an outrage. At that point, the telephone rings and Aibileen gets it. It's Celia Foote, a housewife that has been alienated by the socialites for having hitched Hilly's ex, Johnny. Since Elizabeth will not accept the call, Celia inquires as to whether she is aware of any housekeeper searching for a task since she wants one, however Aibileen can't help her. After the ladies ridicule Celia for some time, the subject changes to that of restrooms. Hilly will not utilize Elizabeth's visitor washroom in light of the fact that the house cleaner likewise utilizes it, and she figures Elizabeth ought to put resources into building one only for the servant. Bumpy is additionally certain that African Americans convey various infections, which is the reason she's drafted the Home Health Sanitation Initiative that comprises of causing each home to have a different restroom for the hued help. While the gathering arrives at its end, Skeeter requests that Aibileen assist her with the letters, and the housekeeper acknowledges. Skeeter likewise apologizes for the restroom talk Aibileen needed to hear before she raises the subject of her old housekeeper Constantine. Aibileen was companions with her and hasn't seen her in some time, yet she's stunned to hear Skeeter say she quit on the grounds that it isn't correct. 2. Before Skeeter can pose any further inquiries, Elizabeth interferes with her and hands Skeeter Hilly's drive so she can remember it for the league pamphlet. Subsequently, Skeeter gets back to sit down to chat with her mom. Charlotte won't respond to any inquiries regarding Constantine and is upset to hear Skeeter found a new line of work in light of the fact that going on like this, she won't ever get hitched. Later during supper with her family, Skeeter gets some information about Constantine once more. Her dad lies, so Skeeter pushes for reality and finds Constantine was terminated following 29 years of working there. A contention results, and when Charlotte will not acknowledge Constantine was the one really brought up her little girl, Skeeter goes out while recalling how Constantine used to comfort her at whatever point she was vexed as a teenager. This gives Skeeter a thought. She needs to compose a book with the genuine stories behind the house cleaners' lives so individuals can see the opposite side. The next day, Skeeter goes to see Aibileen to get her assistance with the section letters while a development laborer starts arranging the additional restroom. Whenever she's certain no one can hear them, Skeeter likewise requests that Aibileen share her accounts for the book, yet Aibileen declines. Their discussion is intruded on when Elizabeth shows up contending with her better half since he is upset about the additional washroom and he winds up leaving irritably. Whenever May starts crying and Aibileen goes to mind her, Elizabeth tells Skeeter she can't converse with Aibileen about the letters any longer. Sometime thereafter, a cyclone shows up in the neighborhood. Minnie is frightened to go to the restroom outside, however Hilly doesn't let her utilization their own latrine. Notwithstanding, Minnie sneaks around and utilizes her main's washroom at any rate. Sadly, Hilly finds out and fires her for it. Occasionally later, Aibeleen's washroom is done, so she needs to go outside also, however she gets a snapshot of pleasantness when May refers to her as her genuine mother. Skeeter comes by Aibeleen's neighborhood to request her assistance once more, causing her to lose her transport. Aibileen turns her down once more, referencing her cousin was singed simply for strolling close to the Democratic station, so she won't put her life in extreme danger over this. Skeeter gives Aibileen her telephone number in any case, and after the servant turns down her proposal of a vehicle ride, Skeeter chooses to explore the laws governing the conduct of non-whites and finds various nauseating standards. For instance, distributing thoughts connected with fairness might bring about prison, books can't be traded among white and shaded schools, and huge stylists can't serve white females. Later at night, Aibileen gets a call from Minnie saying she accomplished something dreadful. Bumpy had told everybody around that she was a criminal, so Minnie got her covered with an exceptional pie. She doesn't make sense of the exact thing, was so horrendous about it, however she separates in tears since she will not at any point find a new line of work once more. Their discussion is abruptly intruded on when Minnie's significant other gets back home and starts thumping her for losing her employment. This leaves Aibileen pondering the book, and in the wake of hearing her minister discuss God believing his kin should be gallant, she brings Skeeter to come over and recount her a few stories. Skeeter leaves far away, so the neighbors don't see her vehicle, and lets Aibileen know that she couldn't care less in the event that the accounts aren't great towards white individuals. She needs to distribute reality, returning us to the start of the story. In the interim, Hilly's new servant requests an advance of $75 to send her children to school, in any event, tolerating to work for nothing for a couple of days to take care of it. Sloping declines, saying she's helping her out on the grounds that God doesn't give noble cause to the individuals who are well. 2 or after 3 days, Minnie's significant other causes their little girl to stop school to turn into a housekeeper to assist with the bills. Minnie herself spends numerous days without a task, however Aibileen gets a thought. There's one individual that could never have heard Hilly's falsehoods, and that is Celia. Minnie goes to see her and is welcome wholeheartedly in light of the fact that Celia is a horrendous housewife and is frantic for help, particularly now that she's pregnant. She'll give Minnie the work assuming she acknowledges to stay quiet about her presence from Johnny, and Minnie concurs. During the following junior league meeting, Hilly declares her well-being drive has been shipped off the lead representative and reminds Skeeter she needs to see it in the bulletin. Skeeter has been attempting to abstain from distributing it and untruths, saying she'll do it soon. The meetings with Aibileen proceed, presently addressing the subject of Elizabeth being a dreadful mother. Minnie tracks down the minute and admonishes them for this horrible thought, however it just requires her a couple of moments to adjust her perspective. Before long she's offering a wide range of stories to Skeeter and guarantees she'll attempt to persuade different house cleaners to help as well. The next Saturday, Hilly acquaints Skeeter with Stuart and they go on a twofold date. Tragically, Stuart acts like a cunt, so Skeeter flies off the handle and leaves the eatery before requesting. In the meantime, Minnie becomes companions with Celia, who approaches her with deference and even requests her organization while eating. In a little while, Skeeter gets some report from the editorial manager. Her accounts are great, yet they need basically 12 servants to talk if she has any desire to be distributed. Aibileen and Minnie have proactively asked everybody they know, yet they are excessively frightened to go along with them, so Minnie has a thought. Since they're now making up names in any case, they could utilize a portion of her accounts and express there from different housekeepers. Skeeter doesn't figure she can do that since it wouldn't be genuine, so to persuade her not to surrender, Aibileen at long last discussions about her child. While conveying weighty wood, he tumbled to the ground and was hit by a truck. The foreman tossed the body on the rear of his truck, took him to the shaded emergency clinic, dropped the body there, and just sounded the horn prior to leaving. The medical clinic could sit idle, so Aibileen brought him home to pass on the sofa at the age of 24. The book is Aibileen's method for tracking down conclusion. The following day, Stuart appears to apologize to Skeeter for his way of behaving. He had still been disturbed due to a new separation, and Hilly had constrained him to go on that date, which is the reason he was tanked that evening. Skeeter says the exact thing she thinks, and he isn't utilized to that, however he loves it. Since he's extending regard, Skeeter consents to go out on the town with him, which additionally works out positively. Stuart thinks Skeeter is shrewd and even concedes, having perused her paper sections, and both of them begin seeing each other seriously. Whenever Skeeter at last starts chipping away at the pamphlet, she chooses to have a great time and changes a portion of the words in her article. When it gets distributed, Hilly's jacket drive shows up as a latrine drive, so she awakens to find her nursery loaded up with old latrines. Renowned dissident Medgar Wiley Evers' battle for fairness is a major subject on television, however Charlotte doesn't permit anybody in that frame of mind to watch his discourse. Soon thereafter, Aibileen and other individuals of color are approached to leave the transport since there's an uproar in the city. Evers has been killed before his own kids. Aibileen stows away at Minnie's for the evening and keeping in mind that they're currently more terrified about their book, they consent to be more cautious and keep on dealing with it. The following day, Minnie finds Celia draining in the washroom since she's had an unnatural birth cycle. Minnie takes her to her bed and deals with her, while Celia shares her concerns. Johnny wedded her since she was pregnant, and she lost that child a month after the fact. From that point forward, she lost 3 additional infants counting this one, yet she hasn't informed Johnny regarding them. Celia is apprehensive her significant other will leave her, however Minnie says he'll deal with it. Afterward, Celia covers the child in the nursery under a plant as she did with the others. Meanwhile, Hilly's servant is captured before different housekeepers. She had found a ring while at the same time cleaning under the lounge chair, and when she attempted to sell it at a pawn shop, the assistant got dubious and called the police. Whenever Skeeter visits Aibileen, she is shocked to find many servants that are at last ready to share their accounts since that morning's capture had been the straw that broke the camel's back. There are a wide range of anecdotes about how seriously they're dealt with, and the saddest part is hearing them notice that the children they raised grew up to be basically as mean as their folks. The following day, the Socialites have another extension club party and Celia attempts to go along with them, in any event, carrying a pie with her. Be that as it may, every one of the ladies stow away and overlook her, so Celia leaves in tears. Whenever she gets back, Minnie reprimands her for attempting to become a close acquaintance with such awful individuals and makes sense of they disdain Celia on the grounds that she wedded Johnny. Celia misjudges and thinks they accept Johnny undermined Hilly, when really their relationship began after the thing with Hilly was finished, so she concludes she'll explain matters during the advantage occasion. Minnie doesn't figure she ought to go, however Celia diverts her from the subject by dealing with Minnie's injury, since she realizes she didn't fall, her better half put them there. Celia tells Minnie she ought to hit her better half with a skillet and leave him, yet Minnie has her kids to ponder. A couple of days after the fact, Kennedy is killed. Aibileen is becoming frightened about being found once more, so Minnie chooses to share the horrendous thing she did to have it as protection. It turns out the unique pie she gave Hilly had been made with her own stool, and Mrs. Walters saw her little girl had 2 bits of it, so she chuckled quite hard about it. This caused Hilly to send her mom to a nursing home. Aibileen and Skeeter don't think including the story is really smart since it'll offer Minnie's character, yet Minnie clashes. Hilly could never believe anybody should realize she ate feces, so the story is the ideal assurance against being perceived. The evening of the cause occasion, Johnny and Celia appear, making the Socialite self-conscious. While offering the offering prizes, Minnie's chocolate pie goes to Hilly, who didn't get her name on paper. An alcoholic Celia approaches Hilly and attempts to make sense of that Johnny didn't undermine her, incidentally removing the sleeve of her dress all the while. Since she's beginning to create a situation, Johnny removes his significant other, however Celia winds up hurling on the floor. After the occasion is finished, Mrs. Walters takes the pie with her and admits she was the one that paid for it utilizing Hilly's name just to pester her girl for having sent her to the nursing home. The following day, Celia comes to the end result she isn't made for this sort of extravagant life and needs to leave Johnny. In any case, Minnie persuades her to remain, bringing up that on the off chance that she leaves, Hilly's control will win. In the interim, Skeeter is nearly finished with the book, she simply needs one final story, Constantine's, so she drives her mom to admit reality. A few months prior, Charlotte was facilitating a Daughters of America lunch get-together subsequent to being delegated state official. Their supper was interfered with by the appearance of Constantine's little girl Rachel, who they didn't expect until the next week. Generally Rachel goes into the house regularly, however today Charlotte makes her go stand by in the kitchen. Charlotte will not enter through the help entryway and advances inside at any rate, saying she needs to see her mom, so Charlotte surrenders under the tension of different socialites that remind her this isn't suitable way of behaving and kicks them both out. The following day, Charlotte went to Constantine's home to take her back, yet she had previously left with Rachel. Charlotte sent her child to Chicago, where Rachel resides to check whether they could talk, yet it was past the point of no return. Constantine had as of now passed on. Charlotte attempts to apologize for what she did, however Skeeter leaves in tears. In the wake of visiting Constantine's neglected house, to keep in touch with her last story, Skeeter sends the book to the editorial manager, who pays her a quite terrible development, yet Skeeter actually sends it to the servants. The book is distributed namelessly and turns into a triumph. Mrs. Walters even peruses it at the nursing home. At the point when she perceives the pie story, she thinks that it is entertaining and calls Hilly to advise her to understand it. Tragically, Skeeter doesn't get to partake in her prosperity for long in light of the fact that Stuart says a final farewell to her when she admits she compassed the book, calling her self-centered. When Hilly at long last peruses the book as well, she goes nuts and attempts to kill the reports her companions are spreading about the accounts potentially coming from their own town. Nonetheless, she at long last loses it when she gets a check for her cause from Celia, made out to slice Hilly. Angry, Hilly goes to see Skeeter, who just got a letter saying she has the occupation at the distributing organization. Bumpy compromises Skeeter with lawful activity, yet Skeeter advises her that to do so she would need to concede in open that she ate the exceptional pie. At that point, Charlotte turns out with regards to her little girl and kicks Hilly out. A short time later, Charlotte tells Skeeter she's pleased with her, compliments her on her new position, and says thanks to her for bringing back boldness to the family. Meanwhile, Minnie gets terrified when Johnny abruptly moves toward her, yet he isn't there to hurt her. Celia has at last educated him concerning the infants, so Johnny has come to say thanks to Minnie for being there for his significant other. He's generally realized Celia recruited help, and since Minnie showed up, Celia has been feeling such a ton better. Then, Johnny returns Minnie to the house, where Celia is hanging tight for them with a supper she arranged all alone. Johnny offers Minnie a stable situation in his family, and obviously Minnie acknowledges. This gives Minnie the strength she wants to take her youngsters and leave her savage spouse at last. The following time Aibileen and Minnie go to chapel, they're gotten with an overwhelming applause. As gratitude for how fearless they were, all the local area has marked the book as a gift to compensate for the absence of Aibileen's name on the cover. After Mass is finished, they take the book to Skeeter so she can see what she's accomplished, and Skeeter admits she doesn't figure she ought to take the bid for employment in New York since she can't let Aibileen and Minnie be after the wreck she made. Nonetheless, the house cleaners tell her there isn't anything she can do here, so they persuade her to leave and get a superior life. The next day, Aibileen gets back from the supermarket to find Hilly let Elizabeth know that she took a portion of Hilly's silver messy. Clearly, it isn't correct, however Elizabeth fires her in any case. When Hilly compromises her with prison assuming she attempts to follow through with something, Aibileen calls her a heathen lady, making Hilly leave in tears. May attempts to prevent Aibileen from leaving, yet this doesn't adjust Elizabeth's perspective, and Aibileen needs to overlook the young lady's crying on out. May is the last youngster Aibileen deals with, yet she doesn't lament what she's accomplished for her local area.